Did I put that in? Did I put that in? I think so, but don't worry about it. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are in College Park, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta for the last day of Speed Week. And so in this race we have some tired legs of some Category 2-3 racers and some very motivated souls to get on the podium and get a good result at Speed Week, because this is the last chance to really prove yourself in one of the biggest weeks of crit racing in America. And so before I get too far into the footage, I have to explain the first 10 seconds of this video, which were taken directly after my race. And so me and Luke, we love to tamper with our bikes and just make sure everything is dialed. And so 10 minutes before the race, we did a wheel swap, and Luke put in my rear wheel when my bike was on top of the bike rack. And for those of you that have worked on your bikes, you probably know where this is going. If you do not put the skewer in perfectly in the frame dropouts, then the wheel can get a little bit loose over the course of a race or over the course of your training days. So that's exactly what happened. My skewer came loose, and in the last sprint I was all over the place. My wheel was going back and forth and almost came out. And so after the race, the wheel did come completely out, and I'm just really lucky that I didn't go down and cause a crash. So for those of you that were in the race with me and you didn't know this, I apologize, but at least nothing bad happened. So that was a lap of the race. 2 laps later, on lap 3, I take off. I kind of use this slower pace and my brother's momentum on the right hand side to slingshot myself to the front. And the motivation behind this, well, there was really no motivation behind this other than trying to make things interesting. I know me and my brother are pretty marked in the gold helmets because he won the night before, and so I think a lot of the people racing today raced the day before it. And so my goal was just to make things interesting and see if anybody would come along and join the party. And so we have this gray goat rider with the pink socks that joined me, and he's a strong guy. I mean, even though this is fast forwarded, he distanced me a pretty good chunk, like 10 or 12 bike lengths. So I catch up to him. I do my pull. I'm trying not to get the heart rate too high, but 177 BPM at 10 minutes into this race or 5 laps into this race is not ideal. And so I'm just kind of trying to chill out, and at this point I look back and see the field is chasing us, probably 10 seconds behind us, and then going up this hill there is a counter attack. And so this Nashville rider is going to take off, and I know he's a fairly strong rider, and so I just hop back in the field and catch my breath for a little bit. And so this is really the theme of this day's race. I mean, there were attacks and counterattacks, and here we're bringing back the Nashville rider a few laps later, and a Piedmont college rider takes off in the rainbow socks. And so his teammate gets to the front and kind of covers and monitors the situation. But a few laps later, we catch him. And what happens here, well, kind of slow up. The guy on the left-hand side is looking around, and boom, there's a counterattack. And so whenever the field chases back to the rider in front and everybody's kind of content and sits up, that just makes the field more prone to an attack like this. So my brother chases down this rider, and there is another attack on the left-hand side, another Piedmont College rider. And so I think Piedmont College had the most riders. I think they had 3 or 4 guys that were very well represented at the front. And so they're just doing their duties. Another guy takes off here. And so it was never a race where 4 or 5 riders got organized and said, hey, let's break away. It was always these solo 1 or 2 riders that took off. But spoiler alert, none of their moves ended up working because I think the majority of the field actually wanted it to come down to a field sprint. It's a pretty epic 7% or so hill to end the race, and I think a lot of sprinters were looking forward to getting their shot of glory towards the end of the bike race. And so my brother's on the front once again. He's motoring, just trying to bring back these solo riders that want to make it interesting. And right now, my brother, as he's peeling off, these two riders decide to drill it. This gray goat rider specifically in the blue socks is really taking after it, so I have to dish out 900 watts just to stick on these wheels. And the reason I do this and not just sit up is because Luke did a bunch of effort to bring back that solo rider. So if I had just sat up and these two riders took off, then that would mean more work for me to chase it down. So I just joined them, and I hope that Luke is kind of rejoined in the back of the peloton and he doesn't get dropped. And so with 15 laps in, I think there was one rider that was still solo off the front, and this Hencappy rider just takes this corner a bit too slow. I mean, we were going 23 miles an hour into it. I had to throw on my brakes a little bit, and so I take note of that he may not take that corner the fastest in the next lap. And so next lap, what happens, he takes the inside on me, and I go 1100 watts around him just to make sure that I have the momentum going around this, because the last thing we want to do as the chasing group, or I guess the peloton, is to slow up and let this rider get any more ground than he already has with 10 laps to go. And so I kind of let this Hencappy rider just take this inside. I'm like, okay, whatever, take that. And he's putting in a big effort because automatic is going, and these riders chase after him, and so I'm just going to slot back into the field. And over the next few laps, I'm pretty sure I just was content to stay in the back and let the others chase while I catch my breath and take notes of the riders. So fast forward to 23 laps, I'm just sitting in 10th, 12th wheel, minding my own business, kind of sitting pretty in the draft and trying not to go down. And at this point, I didn't realize that there was something wrong with my bike, but going through those corners, I did feel like my rear wheel was skipping a little bit, which may have caused the skewer to come loose. So at this point, I'm just happy to sit in and monitor the situation. But with a lap to go, my brother drills it at the front, and I also have the live feed in the top right or top left hand corner this time, just to get a different perspective. I think it's always cool. But he's in the Golden Dome. He's drilling it at the front, mainly to string out the field and make sure there's no clumping up in the last lap, which actually happens on this back stretch because it is so fast. But I'm kind of sitting too far back. This is not where I want to be going into the last 3/4 of the last lap. And so I'm kind of sitting 4th, 5th wheel, I want to say, and you can see it on the live feed and in my GoPro's perspective, but I should be staying on the left side of this rider, because if there's an acceleration, I can hop on that line of riders, but I go to the right side. This is so stupid, don't do this. So I'm in a bad spot because I'm boxed in on the right side, and I need to get to the left side to take this corner wide. Luke peels off to get out of the way, and he's like, dude, you got to get up there. And so this rider, I needed to get in front of this rider in front of me so I could be in 5th wheel instead of 6th wheel and way too far back. And so at this point, unless this guy can put out some miracle watts and I can put out some miracle watts as well, this isn't going to happen. So I enter this corner, 6th wheel, and this is right when I realized my wheel was going all over the place. So I just dish out as many watts as I can, and right here I remember my wheel just slamming into my brakes, and the brake pad kept the wheel in place, which was very fortunate. But 6th place for me on the day, not bad with a loose wheel. But there are some race stats coming your way right there. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.